If you're a PhD student, you want three things by the time you submit: thesis accepted, papers published, and recruiters fighting to hire you. The thing is, most PhDs never get this, and that's because 90% of academic advice comes from tenured professors, and what works for them is the complete opposite of what works for thesis writing, chapter publishing, and the modern job market. Now, I know this because I've mentored over 100 PhD researchers, so I can track exactly which behaviors led to thesis awards, high impact publications, and high-end job offers. I've also spent the last decade developing a repeatable writing system that uses these behaviors and makes paper writing easy. It's the same system that helped me publish 15 papers out of my PhD. It's the same system that helped Heen feel confident in submitting that paper from his master's thesis, and it's the same system that helped Ella feel like publishing her chapter was an attainable goal. So, what separates successful PhDs from unsuccessful PhDs? Number one, they show up even when they don't feel like it. This habit sets the stage for everything else, because if you can't show up, then every other habit is pointless. In the years that I've been mentoring PhDs, it never ceases to amaze me how many people can't show up consistently, yet somehow expect to outperform their peers. Whether you like it or not, academia selects for the exceptional, but you cannot be exceptional by working unexceptionally. The second thing that successful PhDs do that unsuccessful PhDs don't do is that they work consistently, not heroically. Look, you can lock yourself in a room and not let yourself out until you've written 1,000 words and, bravo, good for you, you got a lot done. But how long is it going to be until you feel like writing again? The reality is that working in small, regular chunks will always outperform working in chaotic, random bursts. And my most successful clients get that. They schedule their writing into short blocks in their calendar and they make them non-negotiable. Now, 30 minutes might not feel like a lot to spend on writing, but if you replicate that across days in the week and weeks within the month, then you're far better off than that random outburst of work that you did that one time. Hey, quick interruption. If you're enjoying the tips in this video, I've put together 30 more that will transform your research writing. They're completely free. All you have to do is click the link in the description. Now, the third thing that productive PhDs do is that they trust the process. Research papers follow an unspoken template, and the good thing about that is that it enables people like me to create and systematize a way of writing those papers to make it easy. Now, it took me over a decade to come up with the system that I use and that I teach my clients, but it did enable me to publish 15 papers from my PhD, and I've taught many others to do the same. By far, my most successful mentees understand that they need to trust the process and they surrender themselves to it completely. They don't let their ego convince them that they know better, because they don't. They surrender themselves to the process and they win because of it. And that leads perfectly into the fourth thing that they do. They leave their ego at the door. Now, I was incredibly lucky to get a great mentor early on in my career, but I wasted 2 years of that time with him by letting my ego eat away at what should have been a reciprocal process. The problem was I thought I knew how to write. I mean, I could write an above average essay for a course assignment, but publishing, I had never published before. I had no idea how deep that rabbit hole went. Honestly, he should have just pulled me aside and just said, look, kid, there's levels to this shit. Anyway, it wasn't until I dropped my ego, left it at the door, and followed his instruction like a soldier, then my development skyrocketed. And turning research into published papers became my strongest asset. It won me awards, research money, and job opportunities out the wazoo. The most successful clients that I've mentored, they detach themselves from the emotion of the process. They surrender themselves to it completely, and they reap the benefits because of it. The fifth thing that productive PhDs do is that they don't waste their time on tasks that don't lead to publishing. As an academic, you're pulled in like 1,000 different directions. You've got conferences here, you've got collaborations there, you've got grant applications, society memberships, journal clubs. And while these all provide some benefit, they cannot hold a candle to investing time and energy into your writing. And it's not like the other things don't matter, it's just that publishing matters more. The other thing that separates successful PhDs is that they know their why. Honestly, this one probably should have been number one because it's so foundational to everything else that you do. Now, I have a saying, and I probably stole it from someone else, but if you don't know your why, the how doesn't matter. The message is, if you don't understand why you're doing something, then the optimal way of doing that thing is kind of irrelevant, because as soon as it gets difficult, you're just going to find a reason not to do it. And it will get difficult because any skill, and writing is a skill, any skill takes time and repetitions to learn. And at some point, you're going to want to give up because it's going to be hard. And if you don't know your why, you will just give up. Your mentor provides the how, but adherence to that how is predicated on you knowing deeply, viscerally, your why. Now, once they understand their why, they do another thing. They let the data speak for itself. My old mentor used to say to me that I need to get out of the way of the data. And it took me years to understand what he meant by that. When you start a research project, you enter that endeavor with certain presumptions and expectations about what you expect to happen. And when the results contradict that expectation, a prediction error, our egos fight to hold on to that original story. This is why you'll see some researchers lean on their data so hard because they want it to match what their initial expectations were. Now that's a problem because this is not your story. It's your job to tell the story, but you're telling the story of Mother Nature. Or the way that my old mentor would have put it, Mother Nature has a better story than you do, Biddick, so shut up. The next thing they do is that they don't write until they know their story. Now, I get requests on pretty much a weekly basis to edit other people's papers, and 9 times out of 10, they can't even tell me the narrative of their story in less than 6 sentences. But if you can't tell me the core story of your paper in less than 6 sentences, then how the fuck are you going to tell me in 600? You've got to learn to crawl before you can sprint. And nothing is a bigger waste of time than writing a couple thousand words in a draft with no narrative glue, only to rewrite the entire thing later once your story is crystal clear. The most successful PhDs that I've mentored understand that, and they delay writing until they understand what the core story is. But when they do put pen to paper, or more digitally once they start typing, they write faster than anyone else because they know exactly what needs to be written. Another thing that they do is that they communicate honestly when they're stuck. Look, the greatest barrier to your progress is yourself. So you need to sing out when you're stuck. Writing and publishing are skills, just like any other skill, and that takes time and reps to master. But no one is expecting you to master it on the first rep. The mentor-mentee relationship hinges on you having the humility to admit when you're stuck and when you can't get any further, and the mentor being available enough and receptive enough to help you. My old mentor had an open door policy, and that meant that I could bug him any time of the day or night. It didn't matter as long as it was about paper writing. That was a catalyst in my rapid development as a writer. It's one of the main reasons that I outperformed everyone else in my cohort. And it's one of the main reasons that I maintain a community Discord server with all of my clients. There, they can ask me little things without quote unquote bugging me by booking a meeting, and they can get immediate feedback. Another thing that successful PhDs do is that they treat perfection as the enemy of good. Remember, there's an entire other half of the publishing process that's completely out of your control. Peer review. Successful PhDs know this, and they get it 80% good enough and ship it. The other thing that successful PhDs do is that they take radical ownership over their time. Look, I'd like to say that, we all have the same 24 hours, but the reality is that some people have responsibilities that others don't. I mean, if you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But the ironic thing is that the most successful clients that I've ever mentored have the busiest schedules. They're often working full time, they've got families, they've got a million and one things going on. But ironically, they're better at scheduling it. And when they do commit time to writing, they execute, and it's non-negotiable because they don't know when they're going to have a free moment next. Now, the 12th and final thing they do is that they do not fear getting it wrong. And if there's anything that will hinder your improvement, it is fear. Fear of writing the wrong thing, fear of choosing the wrong structure, fear of what your supervisor's opinion is going to be on that draft. But here's the thing, you will always get it wrong, because that is literally how progress occurs. I mean, if you didn't make mistakes, your writing wouldn't need improving. Successful PhDs don't let fear prevent them from taking action. They just do. But even if you applied all 12 of the habits from this system to your life, your productivity will still come to a grinding halt if you never learn how to overcome writer's block. So if you want to learn how to do that so that you can become a publishing machine, make sure you watch this next video where I'll show you exactly how to do that.